One of our subscribers asked, could you explain things like that raw sienna is a dark yellow? I get confused with the names that are not obvious. I don't have the hue in the name. I don't understand the difference between raw umber, burnt umber, or raw sienna, burnt sienna, etc. Well, this takes us all the way back to cave painting. But to begin with, before I go into this, I want to introduce you to two books that every painter ought to have, or at least one of them. And these are books that explain all the things about how the paints work. I'm talking about for all media, what they're made of, ways to use them, all kinds of stuff. One, which is the most recent reference book on painting today, is called The Painter's Handbook by Mark David Gottsagen. Now, this one is just invaluable for anything that you don't understand about the materials that we paint with. But there's another book well, I don't remember how long ago it was that this one began, but it's called The Artist Handbook by Ralph Mayer. Well, you can't really see the title. I'll put it like this. The Artist Handbook by Ralph Mayer. This one goes way, way, way back, and it's been revised and revised and revised, but it doesn't have all the up-to-date information that the Painter's Handbook has. So I recommend that. Go to, well, actually, you probably could get them both used. Back to today. These colors are called earth colors. The colors yellow ochre, raw sienna, burnt sienna, raw umber, burnt umber. And those colors actually were the colors that were used in cave paintings thousands, millions of years ago. But I want to show you, or just very briefly, something about these colors to answer the subscriber's question. So we'll start with yellow ochre. Now, first of all, because they're all earth colors, we know that they are low intensity colors. So there is a way that you can identify if you're not already familiar with the color. Let's do it this way. First of all, yellow ochre is what's it made of? It's simply earth. It's clay. It's iron oxide in the yellow ochre that makes it yellow. Now you will find that the color yellow ochre will vary, or the kind of color of yellow it is will vary from brand to brand, depending upon where the earth came from, the earth that goes into the color. And so here's what yellow ochre looks like, and I think the brand I have here is Winsor Newton, and this is what it looks like straight out of the tube. Now sometimes we can identify a color a little bit better if we add a little white with it. So what I'm going to do with each of these is to just add a little bit of white with it and show you what happens. Let's make it about half and half, and then this is what it looks like when it has the white added to it. And then you can imagine it makes a very nice cream color. Now, one way that you can identify that, on our website DianeMize.com, you should know that by now, in the menu, click on free materials. This is available for you. It's a little chart I developed that shows it shows 6 degrees of intensity of the 12 colors, 12 hues that are on the traditional color wheel. Now, one way that you can identify what hue you're working with, if you're working with earth colors, is you could start with this chart and simply place the earth color, whatever it is. I'll go back to yellow ochre. You place the earth color on a little strip of paper. I'll pull this away. I'll just do this right here, like that, just on the edge of that strip of paper. And then you could take a color wheel like this that's already got the intensities established, and you can simply come around and you see right there, we're right here, right in that range, yellow orange. Yellow ochre is really, in reality, hue-wise a yellow-orange. You can learn to read that, and then sooner or later you'll begin to, you won't have to think about it, you'll just know that you're dealing, when you're using yellow ochre, you'll be dealing with kind of a yellow-orange. Now some yellow ochres will lean maybe a little bit more towards yellow, and some of them might even look a little bit greenish. But this is sort of in the neighborhood of what you can count on with yellow ochre. And going to the next one, raw sienna. Raw sienna is earth. All of these are earth. Raw sienna is earth, or they call it clay. It also has iron oxide, but it also has manganese dioxide. And the manganese dioxide causes it to be a little oranger. And so let me show you now what the raw sienna looks like. So this is raw sienna on the palette, and this is raw sienna. Okay, now we'll mix a little yellow and bring a little bit more white down here right beside the raw sienna. Mix a little bit of white with the raw sienna, and you see it actually will go sort of towards pink. Now again, we can use the paper test. And this time I'm going to have just a little bit of white in there because it's such a dark color. Add just a little bit of white into the mixture, and we come back to the color wheel, and we pull this around. We'll see that raw sienna actually is closer to a low intensity orange. It's between orange and yellow orange, and that too might vary according to the manufacturer. Burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is raw sienna that has been roasted. We found people, it's been decades and decades and decades ago now, maybe hundreds of years ago, that it was discovered if you roast or burn raw sienna, it changes the color, and so it becomes more. Well, I'll show you. So here's raw sienna, burnt sienna. Here's burnt sienna. Now look at the difference. Burnt sienna in fact, it gets more transparent, but look what else happens to it. We'll pull some white down right here. Pull a little white in the burnt sienna, and you can see it almost goes sort of like a flesh tone right here. Here we go. Now, again, we'll go through this. And the reason I like using these little test strips, I call them, for identifying color this way, this is just little strips of paper, as I said before, is that you can paint the color on the edge of it and hold it close to a color that you're trying to compare it with, and that tells you a little bit more about what the color actually is. Alright, so here we go, and we can see that burnt sienna actually falls in more of the orange category, almost to a red orange, and that too depends upon the manufacturer. So we're coming around the wheel sort of here, aren't we? The next color that I have is raw umber. Now raw umber is the same as raw sienna, except that it has more manganese in it. It means that they found earth that had more manganese in it and creates a slightly different color. So this is raw umber, straight out of the tube, very dark, very warm. All these are warm colors. So we can pull a little bit of white down here and add a little bit of white to the raw umber. Now raw umber is another one I've found that really varies. Well, I can't say that one of these varies more than another. The brand of raw umber I have here is the Rembrandt brand, but there are some brands of raw umber that tend to be lean a little bit more towards yellow than this one does. But you see, that's almost neutral. Now let's see can we identify it as a hue on the color wheel, or is it so neutral that we can hardly find a hue in it. So once again, we will bring the color wheel over here, and we can already see it's not going to really fit into any of those. It feels more like yellow, like the really, really low intensity yellow. So that's when we call raw umber a yellow hue, and that's why raw umber is a good color to mix with yellow if we want to darken it. And so now we have the last one, which is burnt umber. Burnt umber is raw umber that's been roasted. The same principle as raw sienna. They found that if they burned or roasted raw umber, it changed its color character. So here's burnt umber. Here's burnt umber, and you can see very, very dark. Very, very dark, hard to identify. So again, we'll bring a little bit of white and add to the burnt umber so that we can see better what its hue really is. We'll put it right here. Now you see the character totally changes when the white is added to the when the burnt umber is burnt. When the raw umber is burnt and turns into burnt umber, the character totally changes. Just a little bit more. All right, now we will identify it according to the color wheel. Once again, make this little splotch right here. A bit more of that burnt umber in there. Okay, I might have that too dark. Well, we'll see. So if we put the color wheel up here, we see that, well, I'm going to lighten that up just a little bit, and see, you can see that how much you lighten a color is going to help determine how much of the hue you can discover. This wants to go a little bit more towards purple, and that's not unusual. So let's lighten it a little bit more. Put a little bit more of the white into the burnt umber. And let's put it right here too. That lightened version. Alright, now let's lighten it, put it on the other side of them. Yeah, when you're doing these kinds of tests, always use a fresh edge of your little test strips so that you are sure that you've got exactly what you're looking at there. Alright, now we put this up here, and you see it's very close to neutral. So we pull it around, and we'll see that it too falls right in here, feeling a little bit more like the red orange to yellow orange, more neutral, a little bit different character than the previous ones we looked at. So I hope that helped you to identify the colors, identify the earth colors, at least identify them according to how they might fit, or how you might be able to identify their hue and where they would belong on the color wheel if you wanted to place them there. Hope you enjoyed this quick tip. If you have questions or a suggestion for a quick tip, leave us a comment right down here in the YouTube comment box. And take a trip over to DianeMinds.com and look at all the things we have there for you, including full-length video tutorials. And while you're there, sign up for our newsletter so you'll always be informed of our latest adventures. And thanks for watching.